Chapter 20. Who will save me? What do you think, Aunt? Is Raphael madly in love with me and following everything I say? Shall I ask him that you are too irritating too, and see what he would do then? She raised a brow as she looked at the lady with challenging eyes, though there was a sweet smile on her face. Scarlet gritted her teeth. She was not sure why Raphael had suddenly killed the governess. Even when he had come to know that she was the one who had chosen and sent the governess was still a human according to his instructions. And she had hidden the subtle fact that the governess had done nothing except increasing the fear for night creatures in the heart of the woman, but also teach her ways to irk the vampires instead of winning their heart. She wanted to make sure that the new empress met the same end as the other ones in spite of her enchanting beauty. Could it be that her sapphire eyes had won his heart? No, Raphael was not among the men who love. He uses it. He had used everyone around him, and she would not be surprised if he had used her from time to time without even her knowledge. Then how could he be interested in a mere human? Her eyes continued to scan Hazel with doubt-filled eyes when the girl finally laughed, breaking her thought process. Scarlet narrowed her eyes at her laugh and asked in a cold voice, "Have you finally realized that you are a crazy girl and are laughing to prove it? Huh?" Her tone was full of hatred as she did not like the cheekiness of the girl even a bit. Her neck was so slim that it would take less than a second to snap it with her one hand. But she was afraid that Raphael would not like it, and he would not even hesitate to punish her, since the girl was needed for a few more weeks to make sure the matter of massacre dies before any other human is killed in their lands. No, I am amazed that how you're still standing here without feeling embarrassed when I am talking about killing you. Or do you have that bizarre thought that you are immortal because you are a vampire? When she heard the cold words of Hazel, only then did she come back to her senses and remembered that the girl had asked if she would get killed too, if he asked Raphael to do so. She was so busy in thinking about the governess that she did not pay any heed to the mindless blabbering of this little girl. But looking at her arrogant face, Scarlet felt that it was better to crush her haughtiness in the nip of the bud before it would bloom and reach the sky. "Ha, to think that you have such confidence. Why don't you try asking that over breakfast? Even I want to know what his reply would be," replied Scarlet with full confidence that left Hazel tongue-tied. She was only trying to irk the lady so that she would either leave the room, or she would say something snarky in response. Even slapping her would be fine. Then she would use the slap as a reason to show that they are trying to kill her by her exaggerated acting. But who would have thought that irked woman would reply so calmly? "I would only be able to go there if you leave my room so that I could change my dress. But I could see that you are enjoying standing here, no matter how many times I asked you to go out. Instead of killing you, shall I ask you to announce you as my lady-in-waiting, since I did not have one yet?" asked Hazel again, as the woman still did not leave, and her heart was coming to its limit. She was afraid that if the woman would not leave, she would not be able to drag the act anymore, and her truth would come out. Ha, such a delusion. I would see all of them crushing under the feet of Raphael during breakfast. Scarlet turned and left. She was there to know about the death of the governess, but she was not sure if the bitching of a dumb girl was the reason behind it. But if that was the case, then it was necessary to get rid of this vixen as soon as possible. "All of you leave too, and close the door behind you," she commanded in a chilly voice. The maids who had seen standing there frozen, trying their best to be one with the walls to avoid being the punching bag in the middle of the war, had their faces ashen. When they heard the order of their new empress, who was no less than a sharp dagger that even had the capacity to wound the night creatures, they felt they had finally received the amnesty of the emperor. They bowed their heads and rushed out of the room as if someone was chasing them with an intent to kill. "I have never thought that we would be able to escape alive from the war zone," muttered one of them, and they all nodded their heads with a bit of relief on their faces. Just when the sound of footsteps faded and the door was left shut, Hazel, whose face was shining with confidence, turned ashen as if she had seen ghosts. Her whole body trembled like a dried leaf in the stormy night. Hazel had been sitting there with arrogance and nonchalance, and fell on the floor with a thud. She looked high at the ceiling and made a cross with her trembling hands as she whispered in a fearful voice, "O Lord, he actually killed the governess. How would I survive that crazy tyrant vampire who kills without reason? My lady, you are looking beautiful today." The pink dress was giving her a sweet and young look, and her hair was left open. She was looking like a young and sweet teenager who was naive and innocent. But her looks were the least of her worries. She was worried more about her survival. What if she was not able to run away and the vampire would kill her once the council would abandon her? She has to think of a new survival policy that could be used as Plan B. But she has completely disrespected him all this time, and so has this aunt that keeps trying to pressurize him. And since she had to work under his aunt, there was no way that she could avoid their encounters. "My lady, is there anything that you did not like?" asked the maid as the Empress continued to stare at herself in the mirror without looking away, with a frown on her face. She had heard from other maids how powerful their new Empress was and did not want to come in her bad books. She had got her job with great difficulty, and she wanted to keep it that way. "No, everything is nice," she replied, as what was nice she herself did not know, as she did not pay much attention to her look when she stood up to go for the breakfast. When Hazel reached the dining hall, everyone else was already sitting there. She bowed her head a bit, not to look disrespectful in front of everyone, as she was still not sure, but the hunger was stopping her from worrying further about the future and having her meal first. "Did you have a good sleep, my lady? You seem too good today." She heard the councilman speaking, and she knew better that he was talking about her behavior, not her looks. "Yes, thank you. I feel better that I have rested and got time to adapt myself with my new environment." She did not want to get much part of the conversation, but only wanted to observe to get more knowledge about them. With that thought, she cut the conversation short, and thankfully, the man did not pinch her further. Last night, she did not get the chance to look at the beauty of the palace, but now that she had a lot of time in her hands, her eyes wandered on the decorations and arts that had filled the room. But no matter where she looked, the eyes of Your Majesty did not leave her even once. Getting irritated by the fact that her every action was monitored, she gritted her teeth and looked back at the man straight into his eyes. "What is it?" As the words left her mouth, she noticed that the gaze of everyone around her turned to look at her with confusion, and the man passed her a harmless smile that she knew was nothing but an alarm bell that showed the danger signs. "Nothing. I thought you wanted to say something, so I am just waiting for you to start." Hazel frowned when she did not understand a word spoken by her new husband, who was crazy if someone would ask her. Even last night, his behavior was so unpredictable and strange. One moment she had thought he would take her then and there, and next second he left the room without even giving her another look. She did not know what he was talking about now. "Pardon, but could you be more specific?" she asked as she saw the maids bringing the meal. She wanted to scan the whole menu to know if there was something worth eating, and did not want to squabble with the man who only left her annoyed and speechless. "What kind of behavior is that? Even if you are the Empress, you should not forget that he is Your Majesty." Hazel's eyes snapped to a handsome man that was looking like he was in his early 20s, but she knew better never to judge the age of the vampires through their look. His red eyes were looking at Hazel with ridicule as he picked up the red glass from the table and drank the whole liquid in one gulp. To think that she did not even respect His Majesty. I wonder if she even knew etiquette. "Are you sure this was the wife chosen for His Majesty?" he asked the councilman without sparing another glance at Hazel, who was fuming. Did they have nothing else to say? Repeating the same lines and dialogues, the man was like Scarlet in his action and wording when it clicked her mind. To not even introduce yourself and behave rudely with the guest you have just met, I wonder what you call etiquette. Huh, she retorted back and then looked at Raphael. And do not forget that we are a newly married couple. If we will talk so formally, then how will we develop an intimate relationship? She asked as she picked up the glass of juice and swirled it in her hands, unsure if it was edible for humans or not. Raphael's eyes flickered when he heard her words, and a sweet smile formed on his lips. She is right, Damien. Since we are in the start of a relationship, I did not mind her mouth and behavior. After all, beautiful wives do throw some tantrums. With that, he tilted his gaze and turned towards the stunned girl who was still not sure if he had praised her or passed comments. And since it is about improving intimacy, then do I have a better idea for that? He continued with the same sweet smile on his face, and then held her hands and pulled her towards him only for her to land her in his laps. Before she could even react or process what had happened, his hands were already wrapped on her waist, and he said, "Is this intimacy enough, my dear wife?" Alleluia. Hazel blinked again as she could not make any sense of how she ended up in his laps. Just a minute ago, they were sitting beside each other on the round table, and now her hands were instinctively wrapped around his shoulders, and his hands were resting on her waist. His thighs were strong like stone, and his muscles were rigid. It was not at all comfortable to sit over him, but most important, he did not look affected at all. Hazel could even see his dark lashes that were better than even her eyes, and his pale faces that seemed to be shining, his thin lips and his handsome face. He was one of the sexiest masterpieces she has ever seen, but she knew that it was a lethal one. The beauty was only to distract the prey who came willingly towards their death. She took her eyes away from his face to not have any kind of adult thought towards the man who could kill her with his only 2 fingers. He was not something she could handle. He had noticed how the girl stared at his eyes, and then her gaze lowered to his face until it was still on his lips, but then she looked away. He had thought that she would be panicked and flustered when he would make her sit on his lap, but who would have thought that she would use the time to explore his face? She was so different from normal girls that sometimes he failed to predict how she would react next. But that was what made him interested in giving her another glance that had never happened before. "Do you need more intimacy?" he asked as the girl in his arms did not reply. There was a gentle smile on his face as if he was the most harmless person in the world, but their position only reminded her of the girl from yesterday. How his fangs had pierced her soft skin, and how he was savoring her blood. With that thought, her eyes instinctively went towards the table instead of him. As she had thought, there were red glasses in front of everyone except him. He did not drink blood from the glass like others, but directly from the bodies. The thought was enough to shudder her. "What thought is keeping you occupied even when you are so close to me? It makes me irritated that your attention is not on me but on mundane things." Though his face was still calm with that harmless smile, she could see his red eyes were forming a whirlpool. It seemed to glow, and she knew better than anyone that he was telling the truth. Could she say that she was thinking about how to save her life, and it was much more important for her than anything else? "My lord, I am hungry, so I was just looking at food and thinking, how will I continue to eat now that I am in your arms?" She could not show him how flustered she was. She could show him lack of confidence. She was going to fake it till she would make it. "Oh, I thought you wanted to have a drink when you looked at everyone's glasses. Shall I order one for you too?" he asked, and before she could deny his kindness, he had already pointed at a maid who brought a glass that was filled with the same red liquid that everyone else had beside them. "Oh, that would not be needed. I think I am fine without eating." "How dumb of you to ask a human to drink water, you beast. Do you think everyone is like you who eats humans and drinks their blood?" Even though her face still has a pleasant look, she has started to cuss him hard, deep in her heart. "Oh, please, I insist." With that, he moved the glass closer to her lips. She wanted to deny him one more time, but she was afraid that if she would open her mouth, he would slip in all the content of the glass in her mouth. She gritted her teeth and held them tightly shut so that he could not invade it as she raised her head to show her defiance. But surprisingly, when he looked into her eyes, she noticed a strange glint in his eyes, and she found herself parting her lips. A smile bloomed on his lips as he poured the content in her mouth. Only then did she blink and come back to her senses. But it was too late. The content had already touched her taste buds and passed her throat while entering. Her eyes widened, and she decided to puke, throwing all her pretense away for a minute when she realized that she did not feel nauseated with the taste. It was not blood as she had expected. Her hands moved to her throat as she touched it with surprise when she heard him chuckling close to her ears that left her shivering. Though red wine is famous in the Empire, I have never thought that you would like it so much. If you want, I can give you another glass later. His eyes shone as he said so and then let me go. I took the benefit of his distraction when he moved to put the glass on the table and sat back on my seat. How much better did it feel when her feet touched the ground? But if that was only wine, then last night Scarlet tricked her. Her eyes snapped back to Scarlet but found her fuming only. Just when she sat back, she felt a sharp stare from the other side and turned to look at the girl that was sitting beside Damien. She was looking at Hazel as if she would burn her alive. Why was she in such a bad mood? And most importantly, who was she? Hazel could not help but give her another look. The girl has beautiful red eyes and golden hair. She had fair and blemish-free skin that could make anyone envy her. Her figure was accentuated by that black dress that was hugging her body perfectly. It was such a sexy yet modest one that no one could take their eyes away from her. She was so beautiful that even Hazel was having a tough time looking away. But her haunting eyes were telling that she was also a pure-blooded vampire and not an ally. Her sharp eyes reminded her of the anger that always be in the eyes of Scarlet. "Oh, I apologize that I forgot to introduce you to your new family," Raphael said in a perfunctory tone as he noticed her unwavering gaze on Diana. "You have already met Aunt Scarlet. She is the younger sister of my late father. She has 2 kids, Damien and Diana. They both are your sister and brother from today. And that is my uncle, Sir Anthony." Damien just snorted and avoided her while Diana nodded her head as she took another sip of her wine that made Hazel wonder how much they usually drank as she had seen them hardly taking a bite of their dishes. They were just taking glass after glass of other wine, as if it was water that was also empty stomach. The man also nodded perfunctorily, and she did the same. How easily had he called these bunch of blood-thirsty beasts as her new family. Could he even feel any warmth between any of them? But she ignored these small matters as Edward, the council man, was still sitting there keeping an eye on everything. "Raphael, I am thirsty now," the girl complained in a coquettish voice that even felt strange. Could vampires also behave that way also with your own brother? "Oh, I forgot." He looked at the maids who bowed their heads and stood behind each of the guests sitting there, even behind the councilman, and forwarded their hands. Without caring much about their comfort, they all pulled their hands further close to their bodies and opened their mouths. Their fangs came out and dug the soft skins of the maids, and soon she could see their Adam apple moving up and down. The piece of cake that she had just eaten was stuck in her mouth, as she was having a hard time in having her meal, while everyone on the table was drinking blood straight from the bodies of the maids. Her eyes snapped towards the faces of the maids, but she did not find any discomfort there. Yet she could not let go of the nauseating feeling forming in the pit of her stomach. She did not eat anything else as she sat there rooted to her place. After a few more minutes, they let go of the hands of the maids, who bowed their heads and left the room, and soon their 0 places was taken by another batch of maids. "What happened? Is the food not up to your liking, Or is it an ordinary meal too like last night?" asked Damien as he enjoyed her pale face. She raised her head and realized that she was holding the fork so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. She must be looking scared by the scene she had just seen. Coughing a bit, she shook her head. "No, I have already had my meal, so I am not hungry anymore." She dabbed her lips with the tissue from the table and took a breath of relief when her voice came better than she had expected. "Well, then shall we discuss the events of today?" asked Edward, and she raised a brow. Is there some kind of interview or meeting she had to attend after coming to their empire? She did not know much, but there should be further proceedings like that, right? As if reading her thoughts, the man chuckled but shook his head. "There is nothing like a meeting with the council. But since you have complained that you did not have a good wedding, I talked to the council. They had accepted that you would have a grand reception here. It will help you in making contacts and settling here," replied the man with a warm smile on his face. But she knew that the council would not care about her happiness or her comfort. They were only interested in her living, so that the bridge between humans and vampire did not collapse. After all, it was made on her backbone only. "Diana is here to help you with your etiquettes and help you in recognizing a few higher nobles. She would also help you in choosing a dress and other accessories. And Damien would check your dance lessons and your knowledge about the Empire. While Lady Scarlet is always here to help you." He was speaking like they are too amiable and loving and cared about her too much to volunteer themselves for serving her. In fact, Diana had even offered to be your lady-in-waiting. Such a nice girl she is that she volunteered herself for everything you need. The thought only left goosebumps on her skin rather than feeling reassured. "Oh, that is so wonderful that the whole family is here to serve me. I suddenly feel too blessed to have such a loving and caring family." "So, Diana, you want to be the one serving me when I work as an empress?" Hazel intentionally changed the word lady in waiting to the one serving her to irk the girl and see her real face, but the girl only smiled beautifully. She looked more beautiful when she smiled that way, but Hazel shook her head as she did not want to get blinded by it. "Yes, it would be my honor to help the future ruler in serving the empire." Sugar bullets, who am I? Where am I? What am I? How could I be so foolish? I wanted to beat myself up for digging my own grave every time I opened my mouth, and Miss Anne, who would have corrected me every time like she used to do in the palace, and I turned and took another circle of the circular bed of my room. I could see the maids were staring at me as if I had gone crazy, but then I doubt they thought that I was craziest since the day they met me. Taking a deep sigh, I slumped on the bed and looked at the ceiling again. The sound of my body falling limply on the bed gave them a fright of their lives as they flinched on their place, but did not dare to open their mouth and ask me anything. From the day I arrived here, except for a few vampires I could call my family now, I have not seen any of them. But to think that I am going to spend the whole evening among them sounds so scary that I did not want to take my foot out of the room. My lady," I heard the quivering voice of the maid who was standing on the door from the time I remember. Yes, why was she so scared? It was not like I took my anger out on them. "Lady Diana is here to have an audience with you. Shall I accept her request to enter your room?" she asked with a pale face. She was scared that I might be angry with her request, and if she would not tell me, then the vampires would drink all her blood. Poor girl, I swore that she would start crying any moment. "No, tell her to wait for me in the hall. I will be there soon." I could not see the little devil with such an ashen face. I need to control my emotions and improve the color of my face before meeting her. What if she asked the reason? The way she suggested it, I was sure that she would ask the reason. Then tell her that I did not meet anyone in the room where I make love with my husband. After all, an empress has some privacy too. I must say I have become more and more shameless since the day I arrived here. The eyes of the maid widened and her face turned crimson when she heard Hazel, but nodded her head and ran towards the door afraid that blood would start dripping from her face. And this could have been the most terrible thing to happen in the palace full of thirsty blood creatures. Hazel stood up too as she walked towards the dressing table and sat on it. Using a bit of makeup, she made sure that her face matched the confidence she showed to them. "Take me to the room where the lady is waiting," she asked that same maid, and the maid bowed her head and started walking towards the hall. Hazel was sure that the girl would be gritting teeth and shouting just like her mother, but when Hazel reached the room, the girl was enjoying her tea. There was a placid smile on her face that looked so serene that it made Hazel stunned. If she could not anger the girl, then how would she get rid of this vampires? It was bad for her to agitate them till they left her alone. "My lady." Diana nodded her head as a greeting instead of bowing her head, but Hazel did not care much about it and sat in front of her. "Yes, why do you want to meet me?" asked Hazel in a curt voce, but it did not affect the smile of Diana. "You seem to be forgetting, my lady. I have been assigned to guide you for the meeting with the other nobles. It would be embarrassing if you did not know any of them when they would come to greet you." Her voice was soft and warm, and her eyes had a friendly look in them. "I am here to guide you about the nobles that are closer to Raphael and Mother, those that matter to our vampires. So, I hope you have enough time to learn. Though you did not do anything, I am sure you would learn enough if you do hard work, and I promise I will be patient enough with you no matter how many times you ask me." The sweet smile on her face only increased with the time as she spoke, but all the nerves of the Hazel had already started to pop out. If one would listen, it may feel like Diana was caring enough and trying her best to adjust with Hazel. But if I listened carefully, she was trying to say that Hazel would surely embarrass them. That was why the council had hired Diana to teach her, as she was nothing but an arrogant girl who had been lucky to be announced as the Empress. Not only that, even if she would do a lot of hard work and give it her 100%, she would only make a lot of mistakes. So, she should not be scared, as Diana was already prepared for her mistakes. Was she not looking down on her? Her tone was nothing but sweet, yet her words are so poisonous. "Damn, do you think you can take over my pride with those sweet words of yours? Ha! I will show you how the Empress rules the land." "Oh, I did not understand what you were talking about. Who told you that I did not know about the nobles that are closer to the palace? Do you want me to introduce to the Celestia family or Van Douwen, who were famous for their lineage, or could it be that you want me to tell you about the Sancillian, the one who should be announced as your better half?" Hazel tilted her head as she looked at the stiff Diana. She was dancing in her heart and thanking Anne, who had brought all the related books to Raphael for her to read. Though her motto was to convince Hazel that Raphael was not as bad as she thought, Hazel ended up reading about all the nobles. One thing that Hazel was sure about: she could leave anyone behind when it comes to reading and memorizing information. Now all she needed was a way to visit the library of the palace and read as much as she could. Once again she felt cold sweat on her neck and turned to look at the girl, thinking she must be having the same fierce eyes as her mother. But once again, Diana only had a pleasing smile on her face. "I must say you surprised me there for a second, Lady Starinjib." "It is your majesty for you, and you should not underestimate others, Lady Diana," replied Hazel with a bored look on her face. "Since I already know about everything, this session shall end here." Hazel tried to stand up, but Diana shook her head. "I think you forgot that I have been assigned as your lady-in-waiting. So even if the session ends, I will still be with you all the time from today." Hazel must say that getting rid of Diana was more difficult than getting rid of Scarlet, who only needed to be infuriated, and she would leave huffing and puffing. "Yes, how could I forget that since you are my lady-in-waiting from today, I have a job for you." Her eyes sparkled as she looked at Diana, who was looking rather curious than annoyed. "And that is—" "Manners. You need to learn how to talk to your Empress Diana. Since Diana was her maid, why would she need to add honorifics in front of her name? Even Diana noticed the small change in the greetings, but the smile on her face did not falter. I apologize. I thought that since we are family, a little informality would be fine. What do you need my help with, my lady? She asked, even standing up properly, holding her dress, giving a slight bow to show her respect for that stunned Hazel. Pure-blooded vampires that had been in the highest position in the food chain since the start had never bowed their heads in front of their food aka human. Yet here the girl was keeping her pride away, ready to serve her. That made Hazel think if she was being too biased for doubting her. Oh, I like the flower of the east and the blood drops. I miss their fragrance. So, as my lady is waiting, your first task is to fill my room with those flowers. Since the girl smiled so harmlessly every time she looked at Hazel, Hazel did the same. The flower of the east only grew in warm areas near deserts or in too hot conditions. That was why they were called flowers of the east. Everyone knew that the vampires could not bear the scorching sun for long, not to forget the girl who was raised as the princess. And the blood drops, they only grew on the boundaries of the empire to show the land of the vampires had started. It was a pure white flower that was stained with the drops of blood. It was taken as abhor by humans and vampire both, so bringing it would not be easy either. She wanted to see how far the girl could be bent. For a second the smile of the girl turned ugly, but she recovered it instantly. My lady, you are forgetting that the council and the nobles have decided to have a reception dinner for you tonight. If I go and collect the flowers for you now, then I would not be able to return on time to help you in getting ready. Moreover, there would be so many people attending the party tonight. What if anyone saw you with the blood drop flower? Asked the girl with a pleading face. She was sure that she would be able to change the mind of Hazel if she would explain to her the circumstances and the result of her demand. Now that you put it this way, I realize that my demand was wrong. Hazel sighed as if she had finally realized the folly she was going to commit, and Diana's smile broadened. She knew if she would use the right approach, she would be able to manipulate the decisions made by Hazel, and it was easier than she had thought. She had found the weak point of Hazel, and now she was going to use it in the long run. I know that you will be wise enough to understand your mistakes if I will explain them to you. Once again, the girl was only praising herself while showing that she was praising her in such a blatant way. Hazel rolled her eyes at the kindergarten acts of the girl that called herself pure-blooded vampire and continued. Yes, you are right. I forgot that so many people are coming to meet only me tonight. Since that is the case, I did not need that bunch of blood-red flowers and flowers of the east, but I want the whole decoration to be only done by these two flowers only. And if my orders were not followed, then I would not come to attend the party, taking it as my insult. Damien looked at his suit and hair one last time in the mirror before walking towards the door. But just when he touched the door, it opened from the other side. Diana looked at her brother with tired eyes. "Where have you been?" asked Damien with a frown on his face. Her prim and proper sister never looked this exhausted before. "I went to arrange for the new decoration Her Majesty had demanded for. Now do not ask many questions. I have a terrible time arranging for the flowers of the east and blood-stained flowers." She passed him a glare, but then took a deep breath to control her anger. "Sister, why are you even listening to that crazy girl? We are superior here. Just let her be and mother will handle her." Damien looked at her sister with confusion, as she had always been the one in command. Then how could she bow her head and listen to nobody? The girl passed her a glance but did not reply. Walking towards the table, she sat on the chair and rubbed her head. Her face was looking pale and exhausted, which was quite odd as a vampire. "Would you please give me a minute of peace? It has taken me hours to find the decoration of her liking, that also when I have used all my energy." I am thirsty." Her voice came exhausting, and she leaned more on her chair as if she had no energy left. "That is all your mistake. You should have denied her and told her that the decoration was already done, and it cannot be changed at the end moment. She will only be more arrogant and dance on our heads with your pampering behavior." Though he scolded her in a cold voice, he still stood up from his seat and pressed the bell. As soon as the bell pressed, the door was knocked and a man entered the room with their heads bowed low. The man walked towards Diana and stood beside her, while the girl took her place beside Damien. Diana forwarded her hands in the air, and the man held her hands. Taking it closer to her mouth hastily, she pierced her skin so rashly that the man closed his eyes but did not dare to move even an inch or flinch. She took big gulps of blood, and her eyes were closed in ecstasy. "I am not thirsty for now, but I would love to have a round with you before attending their drama." With that, he dragged the girl closer to her, who landed up in his arms. The girl closed her eyes as she resigned to her fate. The man smirked and left the room without giving a second look to her sister. After having her fill, she let go of his hands. The man nodded and left once she was done. Taking a deep breath, she licked her lips, moving her tongue on fangs. Her eyes filled with the ray of light passed by the chandelier. "My lady!" The door knocked, and a maid entered the room when Diana nodded her head. "My lady, all the decorations have been changed as you asked for, and the menu has been changed too. But what His Majesty announced to all of us was death punishment when he saw the changes. Though the maid was a half-blooded vampire, not a human, she was still much lower in the rank when it comes to them. It would only take a snap of their fingers to fill the whole hall with a blood bath." A cold smirk formed on the face of Diana when she heard that, but it vanished as soon as it appeared on her face. "I know, I am worried about it too, but Her Majesty had specified that it should be done that way or she would not attend the party. If Raphael would ask anything, you just have to fall at his feet and tell him that the changes were asked by his wife only, and we did not have a choice." Her face filled with exhaustion and worry as her tone turned grave. "Or else, why would I go personally to the boundaries of the empire and the desert to ask for the flowers? And I even have to stay hungry during the night with that kind of menu. I am only lucky that I know about the changes in advance, so I have my fill with that new slave. You have found a good one this time, Lena." The girl, who was looking worried and frustrated all this time, beamed when she heard the last line. "You are just exaggerating, my lady. When I told the slave establishment that the slave is for you, he personally selected a few best slaves. Everyone admires you, my lady. You should have been the new empress. Why has the Lord taken that crazy lady as the empress?" muttered the girl, and Diana, who was still leaning on the chair, lazily stood up abruptly. "Watch what you are saying, Lena. Even the walls have ears. The council has personally chosen Her Majesty, and even His Majesty had taken a liking to her. And I am nothing but a relative that could be thrown out any moment if I do not serve them well. So, do not say anything that even I will not be able to save you." She scolded the girl in a grave voice that the maid shivered. But the words only increased her jealousy and hatred towards Hazel, who had come out of nowhere, and even dared to treat their mistress as a slave. "Yes, my lady, I apologize for my impudence. I will take care of it in the future." Her eyes glowed with hatred as the words came out through gritted teeth, but Diana did not pay any heed to it. Then go and check the preparations once again. The guests will start arriving soon." "You are looking beautiful, Your Majesty." The maid replied, half-truth and half-flattery, as she looked at their new empress. It was not like she was not beautiful. She was breathtaking, but she had covered herself with a lot of makeup and wore so many jewels that she was looking rather strange now. "But if you like, I can still change your makeup. That gloss." Before she could advise that the makeup was too dark for her skin, the empress raised her head, and her glance was enough to shut up the maid. I did not need your advice. I know what I am doing. I am making my plan for escape, you dumb girl, she added in her mind as she looked at herself in the mirror with a proud expression. She was looking no less than a witch from the horror show. She had used the darkest makeup and wore the most gaudy dress and jewels that even she would be scared of if she had looked at herself in the dim lighting. She was sure that the night creatures give a lot of importance to their looks and presentations, not to forget the noble vampires. She was dying to see their reaction when they would see her. I apologize, Your Majesty. Shall I escort you to the ballroom? His Majesty would be waiting. Hazel gave a last look to herself as she nodded and stood up. Yes, she walked out of the room with full confidence, as if she was looking no less than the fairy. Her heels created the only sound in the silent hall, as everyone had already gone to the party. "Where is my lady in waiting?" she asked as she looked at her left spot empty. Wondering how much Diana had suffered from collecting the flowers, a chuckle escaped her lips that only made her look scarier. Even the maids behind her flinched when they saw her laughing like that. "We do not know, Your Majesty," they replied, shivering more than usual, but she ignored and continued to move forward. Soon the sound of murmurs and music started falling on her ears, and her heart started pounding loudly against her chest. Her palms started to turn sweaty. Taking a deep breath, she walked towards the stairs with a bright smile on her face that was full of confidence. All the vampires were looking at the decoration of the room with a scornful gaze. The drops of blood were the only flower that mocks them, and the flower of the east was bane on their presence. Mocking them, they could not enjoy the sun like the living beings do. Was the party only to mock them? Even the calm face of Raphael cracked when he saw the party room, but soon an amusing smile formed on his face, as if he was not going to attend the reception party, but to see an entertainment show. My lord, what if others take an objection about it? Edward had never asked the question to Raphael, no matter what he had asked him to do, but this was not done by Raphael but the strange girl whom he had thought would have died by now. But here she was. Not only was she alive, but a feast was organized for that even did not understand why. Since when has anyone had the courage to object to anything that had been organized by us? Say, Edward, do you want to bet that not a single one would even ask about it? If I lose, I will give you your freedom, but if you lose, I will drink your blood until I suck you dry. His tone was full of humor that he even chuckled in the end, but Edward knew. Not to go for his voice, but for his words. If he said that he would kill him, then there was no doubt that he would kill him without thinking twice. How can I, a mere subject of yours, can understand your decisions? I would accept your every word without question. He bowed his head as he tried his best to keep himself calm when Raphael chuckled again. Even if I asked you to give your life, the words came out with a smile. It sounded so warm and gentle that if anyone would have heard him, they would have thought he loved Edward like a brother. Yes, my lord, my life is already yours, he replied without even blink that he sighed. You are not at all fun to be with, Edward. Sigh, I think I should go down and look somewhere else for entertainment. He shook his head with a bored look as he descended the stairs. I cannot believe that we agreed to have the party just because the council asked for it. Since when have we started to listen to them? Asked Simon to Damien, who was standing beside him, as he looked at the emperor, who had a sweet smile on his face, as if he was the most harmless man around. If he would not have seen his clothes filled with blood this morning, even he would have believed this sweet deception. Raphael turned to look at the vampire who was staring at him for more than needed, and Simon shuddered. He bowed his head, hurriedly, afraid that he would lose his head before leaving this place. Why, are you not happy to attend the marriage reception of the emperor? Though it was a simple question, but Simon knew the gravity of it. He did not dare to tell that emperor's marriage was a joke for him. No, I did not mean that, my lord. In fact, I am lucky that I got the chance to attend it. He did not dare to speak against the man even in his absence. Who knows when he would come with his sword and kill him in the name of treason? So, where is the wife chosen by the council? I wonder how many days she will be able to survive. This was the question on the lips of everyone as they looked at each other. I think it is too much that we all are waiting for the presence of a human when they are nothing but food, muttered Scarlet, and many ladies bowed their heads. They all felt that the new girl is getting much more attention than needed. She is right there. Diana pointed at the stairs, and though her voice was low, since everyone was waiting to see Hazel, they all turned at once to see this girl who had been so blatant in her demands and had forced the council to throw a party for her. The use of dark brown that is almost like black as the lipstick and so dark and thick makeup. Hazel was looking nothing less than the character of a dark theater that was used to scare human kids. Is she the one? Scarlet nodded with a smirk as she looked at the shock of every person present there. Wow, had she taken a bath in makeup or the pool of paint? Asked another lady who brought a wave of chuckle in the whole area. Even Raphael turned to look at her when he felt that the girl was gaining too much attention and felt at a loss of words for a few seconds. But then a devilish smile formed on his lips. My dear wife, you always exceed my expectations. He held her hands in his and kissed it gently when he looked at her with crinkling eyes. It is because you always underestimate me. She raised a brow as he looked at him. Clad in black suit with a red shirt, he was looking too handsome. Even she was not able to take her eyes away from his face. He was a devil of lust. She was sure looking at his devilish charms and how the woman was swooning over him. You are right. Then at the party, I will expect a lot from you. She blinked when she noticed that his lips were moving and he was talking to her. She cursed herself for getting lost in his face when she knew that he was nothing but a trouble for her. But when the words sunk in her mind, the frown on her face only increased as she did not understand what he meant by that. Now if we continue to stand here and talk to each other, the guest would think that you are so much in love with me that you did not want to let go of me and meet them. We do not want that, do we? He asked, and she finally noticed that he was still holding her hands closer to his lips, and she was staring at him more than necessary. She took her hands away and looked at the other side of the room when she heard him chuckle, but she did not turn to look at him. The man was a hoodwink, and she would not even realize when she would fall into his trap. Continue to hold my hands, my dear wife. We are a newly married couple that are so much in love. You do not want to prove the council otherwise, do you? He moved behind her and gently wrapped his hands on her waist and pulled her towards his chest. His smooth and velvety voice echoed in her ears as he whispered closer to her ears. The sweet smell of alcohol and something else touched her neck, and she shuddered. She felt like her heart would jump out of her chest and her knees would give away. Then let go of me. She held his hands that were holding her waist securely and tried to move them away, but even his gentle touch had so much strength that she was not able to break free. She turned and glared at the man who was trying to show the world that they were too intimate with each other. But the man had that innocent expression as if he did not know what she was talking about. You are too desperate to leave me, my dear wife, that you are not noticing that all the doors of the exit are already closed. He looked into her eyes and whispered softly for only her to hear his words that trembled her once again. She was thankful that he was still holding her waist to keep her standing, but what did he mean? Was he talking about the current situation or her will to run away from this marriage? Are you both going to talk by yourself? The whole empire is waiting for your presence, my lord. Scarlet could not bear their lovey-dovey act anymore. All she wanted was to hold the neck of the girl and snap it into two. Her nails dug deep into her wrist, and in the end she could not stop herself from walking towards them and interfering in their sweet conversation. Raphael finally took away his gaze from the shocked face of the girl, and Hazel took a breath of relief. For once she was happy that Scarlett interfered, or she was worried that the man would read her thoughts and knew what she was trying to do. You are impatient like always. What do you want, Aunt Scarlett? It is not the first time that I am meeting them. She pursed her lips as she looked at his nonchalant behavior and did not know how to continue the matter. I have told you so many times, do not call me aunt since I am hardly older than you. And though you have met them so many times, it is the first time that they would meet your wife. Since she had paid so much attention to the decoration and took personal interest in the meal, she had gotten herself a name already. As the words left her mouth, Hazel noticed that a lot of other women were standing behind Scarlett. It would look like they were talking to each other, but often their gaze was lingering on her face, and she knew that they were waiting for her. Like hungry beasts let their prey think that she was free, and when the prey was least paying attention, they would attack her and devour her. She felt like she was in a similar situation. But I think we should have dinner first. She had all her life to talk to them. When Hazel had thought that she would let her go, he kept on holding her tightly in his arms that confused her. Should he not enjoy that she would be tormented by all of them? Oh, I thought you would like to have a drink with Damien and Simon and so on. They all are waiting for you. It was taking so much effort to maintain the smile on her face that Scarlett wanted to snatch the girl from his arms and show her where she belonged. Yet she continued to plaster that smile on her face. Wouldn't they join us on the dinner table? Without waiting for her to respond, Raphael continued to hold the girl in his arms in a secured manner as he walked towards the dinner table. Many of them who were thinking that they would be introduced to the girl exchanged their glances, but nodded their heads and followed the lord to the table. Soon the food started getting served as they sat on the table. Under the piercing gaze of their master, they did not dare to insult the girls as they nodded their heads to affirm her presence, and she repeated the same. As food was served, she looked at the plethora of dishes in front of her, and so did the knives, forks, spoons, and plates with them. Since she had lived alone, she never cared about the table etiquette, and when the governess taught her about other things, she did not pay much attention to it since she was the princess. They must have thought that she knew about it already. Now that she looked at the shining gold, she did not know how to react to it. Since she and Raphael were the guests of honor of the party, none of them would start before them, so she did not have the chance to copy others. But since they all would not start before she would start, should she delay it further? A smirk formed on her face when the idea crossed her mind, but she let that go as she knew it would not work. A few of them would ask her to eat anyway. Then should she let go of the manners and eat the way she would like? After all, she was not trying to leave a good impression on them anyway. No, they must think that she knew everything, or else they would think that she was a fool and would try to insult her or take her benefit. She had to show them she knew all. My lady, did you not like the fool when you are the one who specifically ordered it? She raised her head with a frown. She had ordered the flowers and she was sure that they would comment on it, but they did not. She had thought that party would start with a bang, but it was rather silent. And now? She looked at the food again and realized what they were talking about, and a smirk formed on her lips. Oh, do you not like veg food? Then you can always have what you like most. She pointed at the maids that were standing behind each of them, and soon the blood was filled in their glasses. But if you are still unsatisfied with the food, I can ask the maids to change the menu for you. Though she asked with a bright smile on her face, the meaning between her words were similar. No, no, the food is too appeasing. It would be a change for our palates. The man muttered with an uneasy smile as the gaze of the lord fell on him. Go on then, eat. As the hostess, I will only eat when all of them start eating. That was the golden chance she was looking for. Once she would see all of them eating, she would just imitate their actions. The others who had been silent all the time glared at Simon for opening his mouth. They would have thought that they would just sit and have a few sips of their drink and then leave the table. But who would have thought that now the eyes of the Lord would be on them? They all exchanged uneasy glances and looked at Scarlet for help. Raphael, you cannot force all of them to eat the grass. If it continued, then the girl would ask us to have the milk instead of blood like her. Are you thinking of changing all of us for your wife? How is it different than the greedy humans that had always questioned us while having all kind of meat by themselves? Her words got a lot of nods, and finally Hazel felt the tension building in the atmosphere. She turned to look at the maids to know when she had asked them to change the menu when her eyes met Diana. She was looking at her with a smirk on her face, but when she concentrated then, it was a gentle smile that the girl always gave to her. Humans have always behaved like that. They have different words in their mouth and different actions. Like the last empress who tried to mix the powder in your drink. That is not true. Both parties have been equally prejudiced against each other. If humans had always hated vampires, vampires were also not kind towards them. Interjected a council man that was a human. He was already feeling strange sitting between so many vampires, but he could not accept that they were the only one to blame when the vampires were the one who had killed them and drank their blood as if it was water. "Huh, do you have a kind relationship with the chicken you are eating?" asked a vampire that pointed at the human with a scoff who gritted his teeth. "Both are not the same case," he retorted, and a few humans also nodded their heads. "Yes, because you are one of the parties involved. If you would ask the chicken, he would surely have different views," scoffed Damien, and many other vampires nodded. Hazel looked at the fire that had started burning. Now she understood how food was the most sensitive topic amongst them. They did not care much about her attire or the decorations she had changed. But when it came to food, they were fighting with all their will. She had never wanted to create the rift between human and night creature to deepen. All she wanted was to get rid of this unwanted tag of marriage. "So you want to say that vampires have the right to take our lives for leisure?" retorted another council man who had decided that he would not tangle with this matter, but he could not handle their shit anymore. "Look carefully. None of the Maiad had died while we were feeding on them since ages. But you have killed so many animals not only for food but for fun and to pass your time. At least we have not hunted humans for fun, though I think it would be worth trying." While Hazel had thought that the man would try to control the fire, he only put oil in it while talking about hunting humans for fun. She shuddered with thought of him running behind her with an arrow in his hands, or she wondered would he even need that. She had seen a portrait of a demonic vampire with long nails and fangs. "Your words can wage another war, my lord. You should not speak without thinking much." Where Scarlet and Damien had a smirk on their voice, Edward frowned, and so as other humans that were listening to his words. He had a harness smile on his face as he took the sip of the wine nonchalantly. "Why, oh my, where did your wild thoughts run? I was only talking about devouring my new wife on the bed tonight." Not only his words left everyone speechless, Hazel felt like her whole face burnt. What in the name of God was the man talking about? They didn't have any kind of intimate relationship, but she could not say so loudly as she was his wife now. She saw a lot of them chuckling when the words sunk in their mind, and a few still looking grim, but did not have anything to retort to the Lord who was above them all. "I apologize. I was only trying to add humor since the topic was getting too serious. We are here to not only celebrate the alliance between humans and us, but also my marriage. I expect none of you would start a topic that would end up in me sleeping on the sofa, while my wife would fume alone in the room." Once again, everyone was left speechless. Who would have the audacity to keep the man who was sitting at the highest position on the food chain to be asked to sleep on the sofa? Hazel also raised her head and looked at the man who had done PhD in spouting nonsense, who had even made him the lord of the vampires. Just when she raised her head, Raphael turned his head to look at her too, and their gazes met. Though he had a mischievous smile on his face, she could see how grim his eyes were. She was sure that, when he was talking about hunting, he was not talking about her in particular but humans. She could even feel the deep hatred that was coming from his bones towards them, and she wondered why she had not noticed it before. That only made her more insecure in the place full of the bloodthirsty night creatures. What if they decided to feast on her, because they could not eat the grass? No, she could not bite more than she could chew. With that thought, she passed an enchanting smile to the man who was trying to intimidate her and parted her lips. Though I am assured that my loving husband would not mind, even if I would ask the palace staff to serve mud in the plates of the guests. I am not that rude to do so, and personally I have been brought up eating meat. So, why would I order grass that I could not digest myself? I wonder where this miscommunication came from that I asked to change the menu. As she finished the words, she turned her head to look at the staff that were shivering with fear now. If the blame was forced on them, then it was confirmed that all of them would be slaughtered tonight in the name of the hunger of the night creatures. That, we have been told by the lady of the house. The line itself was mocking her. Even the maids think that she was not the lady of the house, and everyone present their knew whom the maids were talking about. All the vampires have a big smirk on their faces. Even the head of the maids and the knights that were insulted by her had scornful expressions on their face, as if they were reminding him not to forget her place. When everything thought that she would feel humiliated and finally realized her place, a look of surprise passed her face that only widened the smirk on the face of others. Oh my, I thought the previous empresses of the palace had already died. Or are you getting the instructions from the dead? As the words left her mouth, she covered it with her both hands. I think the biggest threat is not human or night creatures but these ghosts. What do you say, my lord? She looked at him with her big animated eyes with a fearful expression, but her eyes were twinkling. If he could take her name and use it as he wanted, then why would she not do that? Raphael looked at her with an amused smile. This was the first time when someone was using him as cannon fodder. Of course, then what do you say? Shall I kill her to get rid of any chance to spread the evil spirits? Even though everyone on the table knew that she was spouting nonsense, he replied with all seriousness as if their lives were at threat. The maid shivered and fell on the floor when she heard the decision of the Lord. She only wanted to take revenge on her mistress, who was treated like a servant by the new empress. She had thought that Hazel would be ensured if Diana would be called the lady of the house. Raphael had never minded when that had happened with the previous empresses, and they have only suffered the grievances silently. But this new empress was too cunning. That is not what I meant. I apologize for my mistake. It's just that Lady Diana had always been our head, that I did not realize that I have to change my way of addressing her. She bowed her head further to get mercy. She knew if not others, at least her mistress would save her. You should pay more attention in the future or else you will be punished. Now go and work. Diana scolded in a cold and stern voice like the mistress of the house should do. The maid flinched and nodded. She was about to stand up and leave with a pale face when the sound of clapping halted her steps. No wonder the maid thinks that you are the lady of the house. You even cut the lord and decided the fate of the maid when my husband had already announced her death penalty. She shook her head and sighed as she looked at the face of Raphael as if she was feeling pity on him. Too bad, even your family did not give you respect. She even added when she did not get the desired reaction. The whole room ended up in grave silence. Even the sound of music in the background suddenly stopped. It felt like everyone had even stopped breathing. Not that she knew whether the night creatures breathe or not. Only the sound of a few forks and knives on the dinner table could be heard, that had fallen from the hands of the choked humans, who did not know whether to applaud the bravery of the girl or pray for her soul to get peace. The silence was so deafening that everyone felt it would only end up with the sword of Raphael killing Hazel. Even Scarlett was stunned, but soon a smirk formed on her face. She was sure that Raphael, who was so cold and cruel, would not bear such an insult from a human. Raphael rubbed her chin as if he was taking her comments seriously, and then raised his head and looked at the girl with grim expression. Then what do you suggest, my dear wife? How should I react that they all only listen to me? Thud, if her words were shocking, his words had shut their brain completely. A few of the maids even fell on the floor when they heard his words. What else? You should be the one to take the decision, my lord. Like this meal. Do you think I would have dared to change it if you had not accepted it? Since you did not know about it, then how can I? It should be only done by the person who is trying to challenge both of our positions. Right, my lord. She even bit her lips as she looked at the man with an aggrieved face, as if she was treated badly here. From the side of her eye, she looked at stunned Edward, who was still staring at the matter. At least, she would not be killed in his presence. She assured herself and then concentrated on the drama again. But when her eyes fell on his face again, she felt goosebumps all over her skin. His eyes were sparkling with mischief, as if he had seen where her eyes were and knew her little trick. Then let me change the meal as you want. And for the maid, I give you the right over all the staff of my palace, and you would be the one to take all the decisions in the future. Is it enough, my dear wife? A lot of gasps could be heard in the background as she looked at him with wide eyes. When he came closer, as if he was going to kiss her. Only I can keep you alive since Edward is going to leave the palace after the function. So, why don't you look at me with those eyes in the future? Huh. Hazel was still shocked when he had not only taken her side, but also gave her all the right to control the palace. She was so stunned that she did not know how to respond and was still taking him to wrap all the matter in her mind when the man moved closer to him. His cold lips touched her warm cheeks and she shivered. She knew that she could not jerk him away in front of everyone when she heard him whisper into her ears. Only I can keep you alive since Edward is going to leave the palace after the function. So, why don't you look at me with those eyes in the future? Huh. With the words being said, he moved an inch away and looked straight into her eyes. Though 3 was still a harmless smile on his face, his eyes were intense. If she did not know any better, she would have thought that he was a jealous lover. And what type of eyes he was talking about. She was only making sure that she would stay alive. If you continue to look at me like that, I will fulfill all the words I have said earlier right in front of everyone. With the speed of lightning, she moved her head away, but her heart was accelerated so fast that she could hear it getting out of her ribcage. Her whole face was burnt red. It was so heated that blood would drip out if at any second. The new couple seems to be so much in love, exclaimed a girl, and everyone came out of their daze. Scarlett was gritting her teeth as she was looking at both of them. She had only accepted the marriage because she had thought Hazel was just like other empresses. She would come, live here for a week or two, and then end up at the dinner table. Who would have thought that she would gain the favor of Raphael and how? Except using her sharp tongue and bossing around like a brat. She had done nothing special, yet Raphael looked like he was completely smitten by her sultry face. Soon a new meal was served by the maids, but the eyes of the vampires were still on the couple. All the time Raphael's eyes were stilled on the girl as if there was none other but her, though she was looking like a fool. What is with Raphael? Why is he paying so much attention towards the girl? She looks no less than the witch with all the makeup and behavior. Vanessa looked at the couple as she whispered in the ears of Diana, who frowned. Well, they are a newly married couple. That is what they were supposed to do. Her voice had a bit of confusion that only increased the frown on the face of Vanessa. This is just a marriage of convenience. He was supposed to marry you. How could you be so nonchalant about it? The girl looked at Diana with a frown, and the eyes of Diana widened. Diana held the hands of the girl and dragged her away. She looked around to make sure that no one else was listening. Taking a breath of relief, that no one noticed their small actions. Do not forget that Raphael is our Lord. He is the one who decided and we were to follow. Even when he had chosen the witch in the past, we all had to bow our heads. This is just a human. Your words can kill both of us, so you better pay more attention to what you say in public. Hazel is the empress now. It is only right that we will serve her. Vanessa, I am warning you for your own good. Do not go against Hazel, Diana shouted in a whisper as she looked at the girl with a scowl on her face. So you mean we play a part in her fashion parade of dancing like monkeys on her fingers? The girl retorted with gritted teeth, and she knew most of them felt like that only. Vanessa, I am already troubled with all the mess, and the way mother and brother retort to her every action. I did not want any further problem, she muttered as she pinched the space between her eyes and left from there. Just as she turned, her eyes glowed with evil glint, but she did not turn to look at the fuming girl behind. The glass on the hands on Vanessa broke as she increased the pressure in her hands and looked at the retreating back of Diana with gritted teeth. Her eyes scanned the room, and a smirk formed on her lips when it stopped on Damien. With slow and seductive steps, she walked towards Damien while she continued to look at the loving couple who were feeding food to each other now. Damie, it has been ages, how are you? The girl placed her hands on the chest of the man who smirked and pulled her closer into his arms. Hey Vanessa, so, now that Raphael is taken, are you finally giving me a chance? The man whispered closer to the ears of Vanessa and then bit her there seductively. MMMM. She closed her eyes, but her hold on the shirt tightened as her hands clenched into the fist. I wonder if the Empress looks like that in reality or if she is a beauty. Raphael seems too fond of her. The man chuckled, but then his eyes narrowed on Hazel as he said with sparkling eyes. She is more beautiful than Diana and you. She had a charm that could only be found on humans. Like a bud that has yet to grow. A ray of light flashed past his eyes when he remembered her coming to the breakfast table without any makeup, with her wet hair and rosy skin. She was breathtaking. Then how can a man like you let that bud go? Or are you scared because she is the girl Raphael had chosen? I never knew that the steak tastes this good. All Hazel wanted to do was to stab the man with the fork, but she wondered if he even had blood in his nerves, and would he die by this small fork? She started at the fork, which had a piece of meat in it, disappearing in his mouth, and came out empty. Who had said that vampires did not eat much since they only eat for taste? Look at him. He had already finished a plate of steak, yet there is no sign of him ending the meal. Not only her, but she could feel the eyes of every man on him, yet he was acting so oblivious as he asked her to feed more. I want to taste that too. He leisurely pointed at the piece of lamb and then blinked his eyes at her. He was acting so coy that she wondered if he was really the vampire lord. Sure, my lord. Plastering a forced smile on her face, she cut the piece of lamb and brought it again towards his mouth when her own stomach grumbled. Though the sound was too low and was completely hidden by the music, the eyes of Raphael twinkled. Fuming, she gritted her teeth when she noticed that he was enjoying her torment and pressed more force on the fork this time, as if she wanted to pierce it on his tongue instead of feeding him with it. I want to have that one too. Gulping another piece, he pointed at another dish, and so as continued until she was tired, and even the fake smile was cracking from her face. When he was sure that she was not going to continue it, even if he offered her life in exchange, he finally let her go and raised his hands. Picking up the napkin from the table, he spoke in a soft voice. I think that would be enough. You can have the rest. A sigh of relief escaped her lips as she nodded with much vigor. The lost energy of his body returned as she finally could put something in her own mouth too. She even forgot the count of how many times her stomach growled and grumbled to get her share of the meal. Most of them had already stopped eating and were only waiting for them to finish. With a smile, she turned to take her first bite, when she noticed that he had eaten almost all of the dishes, leaving nothing behind for her, except a few boiled peas. Her face cracked hot lava and seemed to form on her head. Steam started to rise from her nose and ears as she turned to stare at the man with a death glare. She did not care who he was. If she was going to die, she would just hold him and die so that they both could perish together. There, do you want me to feed you now?" he asked in a soft voice, as if he was oblivious to the reason for her anger. Just as he said so, he picked the same fork she had let go of after feeding him, and took a single piece of pea in it, and brought it closer to her mouth, as if it was the world's more delectable dish. "Say, on my foot." She would rather kill him and eat him than having this boiled piece of pea. "I think I am full just by feeding you," she replied with a strained smile as he raised a brow but then nodded. You are such a loving wife." Without pursuing the matter, he let the fork go. That surprised her, since she was sure he would not stop annoying her. From the first day, he was leaving no matter what to make her berserk. "Since the meal is done, let's have our first dance so that others can start too." Without waiting for her response, he held her hands and pulled her from her seat. She wanted to deny by making another excuse, but when she saw that everyone had already stood up and was waiting for them to move forward, she let the words die in her mouth and followed him to the stage. He continued to walk while holding her hands lightly in his, until he reached the center of the stage, and then brought her hand close to his face and kissed it gently. Though his lips were cold, she felt a sudden warmness feeling all over her body. If it might be because he was the only man that had ever kissed her and came in contact with, she felt a sudden electric bolt and heat rising all over her body whenever they came in close proximity. She felt like her body was longing for his touch. She shook her head at that foolish thought. She never knew that she was so perverted to try to come closer to the first man she would find, even if it was a night creature. "A penny for your thoughts, my dear wife." She came out of her thoughts and raised her head to see everyone was waiting for her to start the dance. "I am only waiting for you to start, my lord." Very conveniently, she put the whole blame on him again, as she blinked her innocent eyes that gave her soft face a frail look, and he chuckled. "I should have already known. My wife did nothing without my permission." He shook his head as he held her waist and took the first step, and she soon followed. "You do not like to eat peas, huh?" She was not expecting that he would ask that just when he would hold her in his arms, and she nodded her head instinctively. But when she was waiting for him to pass another comment, the man did not speak further, as if he was lost in his thoughts already. "What a queer man. Did you say something?" She shrunk when she heard his cold voice. She had thought that he would not listen, as she had only whispered. But who would have thought that not only would he listen, but he would ask her to repeat himself? "I was talking about the men here. How queer they are." She pointed at others, and then blinked her big and bright eyes innocently, as if he was the one who took it wrong. "Oh, then shall I kill all of them?" Her whole body turned stiff when she heard his sincere voice. He could be awarded as the queerest man here. Would he kill himself too? No, that would not be needed. As if her words were not enough, she even shook her head to assure him that he did not need to kill anyone. "Why, do you like any of them?" He raised a brow as a tinge of cold could be seen in his eyes. What kind of logic was that? She shook her head again in a hurry and even added this time, "No, they all are closer to you, so, as your wife, I shall try to be kind towards them too." That would sound logical, and she would be sound kind too. "No." Her brows knitted as she raised her head when he died with a warm smile on his face. "I am not kind to any of them, and kill them all without any remorse." All right, she gave up. She could not win with his strange logic. Why did it feel like he wanted to kill all of them but wanted her to be the reason behind it? The last line, "You said, would the council leave today?" Though she knew that the day would come soon, it was still sooner than she had thought. If she would hide in any carriage and run away from there, Would she be able to leave this spooky place too? But as I said, if you would follow my words, I will make sure that you live a good life here. Here he was, enunciated the same words. But how in the world would she be able to follow him? He was lunatic. His hands suddenly tightened on his waist, and he brought her closer to his chest. Her eyes widened, but only a smile formed on his lips. Let's see how much can you follow me. He chuckled as he looked at her confused face and then twirled her. She went away from him, and just when she thought that she would fall, he pulled her again in his arms and her back hit his chest. Her breath hitched when she felt his cold breath touching her neck. A strange sensation filled her body when his hands touched her raised hands and slowly moved down towards her waist. It was so damn slow and sensuous that she could not concentrate on the steps at all. She felt shivers run down her spine when he played his fingers on her waist, as if he was playing a piano. Her surroundings started to turn blurry. The voices started to fade away as he continued to touch her in a strange way. There was something wrong with it. She felt like he was bounding her with spells. She knew that she should jerk him away, but she was not able to. In fact, she seemed to be leaning to his touches. Her eyes closed and her body started to seem funny. She lost all the coordination between her body and brain and was only following him on her instincts. A dark ray of light passed through his eyes when he saw her seductive face. The layer of makeup did not seem to hinder her face for him. He could still see her features, her innocent big eyes that shone like a fox when she got successful in tricking them. Yet she gave up so easily under his slight threats. The way her breath hitched and the way she glared at him, she was so damn adorable. His grip on her waist tightened, and he raised her high in the air. Her hands held his hands tightly, afraid that she would fall while her waist came closer to his face. He twirled, holding her like that, and a small gasp escaped her lips. Hazel held the man tightly for her dear life as her hazy eyes slowly opened, but it did not stay for long when she felt him twirling and she gasped. Taking another twirl, he slowly brought her down, but why was her skin being too sensitive, as if his every touch had been amplified by her skin? She could feel his breath, his touch, and much more that her mind started to shut down. He flipped her and her chest hit his chest, and she raised her head and looked at the man, whose eyes had turned darker too. Gone were his kind and warm reactions, and were replaced by a predator that was looking at his prey. His eyes had turned so dark, yet she felt they were sparkling like stars. Her lips parted as she wanted to ask him if she was done with the dance so they could stop, but the words died in her mouth. His eyes were feasting on her stunned and naive looks. It crossed her face, her nose, and rested on her lips that she felt her body heating up. Would he kiss her? Was he planning to kiss her? Her heart leapt on her ribcage as if trying to escape from her body, as it could not bear this much pressure, when his lips parted and he spoke in a seductive voice. "You seem to be appetizing, Hazel. If only I could take a sip and know what you tasted like." Hazel blinked her eyes as if she had finally broken the spell he had done on her. Why in the world was she even expecting a kiss from him? She should have known better that he was a beast and would only talk about sipping her blood. She was nothing but food for him. This man should be named as male version of femme fatale. Shaking her head, she glared at the man with cold eyes. "Why would I let you drink my blood? You have told me that you would keep being safe and alive if I would listen to you. Are you going back on your words even after holding such a high post?" Her straight allegations with that aggrieved face looked so adorable in his eyes. He raised a brow as he scanned her face and pouty lips. He knew that she was expecting a kiss, but not now. This was neither the right place nor the right time. "So, you will listen to my every word from now on?" She nodded in a blink, hearing his challenging question, and a satisfied smile formed on his face, though his eyes still scanned the face of the girl with suspicion. She was not from those who would easily raise white flag, yet she accepted his conditions so easily this time. There must be some glitch. Are you doubting me, my lord? She puffed her cheeks as she blinked and looked at him as if she was a dejected puppy. Well, why don't we test it rather than arguing about it? She hated that harmless look on his face. Whenever he looked that way, he was about to throw a strong attack on the enemies. She gulped as she felt the intensity of her promise. What is there to test? His eyes left her and scanned the room as they still swayed slowly on the beats when his eyes fell on the gritting face of Vanessa, who looked like she would tore Hazel into pieces. His eyes gleamed, and then he brought his face closer to the face of Hazel and whispered in a soft voice. There is a girl named Vanessa, clad in a black dress. I want you to go to her and insult her. Show her your power and authority as you have shown to the staff on your first day. If you won from her, I would accept your loyalty. If not, only God would be able to keep you alive here. His soft and seductive voice that could make the knees weak of any girl out there, human or vampire, only left goosebumps on her skin. She knew it. Under this soft face and warm smile, a cruel and distant man who did not care about anyone but him. He was only trying to create a war for his entertainment. She nodded her head but did not move an inch as she continued to dance with him, as if she had not heard him at all. He waited for a second or two, but then his patience seemed to wear out swiftly as a frown formed on his delicate features. He did not understand why the girl was not leaving. Was she making any plan in her mind? With curiosity, he could not help but ask, "Why have you not gone yet?" Traces of impatience and curiosity could be felt in his voice, and she raised her head innocently and blinked. "Where shall I go, my lord?" Her oblivious voice confused him further as 3 deep lines formed on his forehead. Had the girl suffered from schizophrenia? Hadn't he told her to go to Vanessa and insult her? "Did you not hear me? You said that you would listen to my every word without any question." He raised a brow, and his voice filled with a cruel laughter as if saying, "See, I knew that you were lying and would not do what you were saying." "My lord, I know what I said, and haven't I done that too?" For the first time in his life, Raphael felt he could not understand someone. What was she even talking about? How? This time his voice raised a bit, and all the night creatures turned to look at them. Since they have strong senses, a single sound was enough to gain all of their attention, not to forget that they were already stealing glances at the couple every now and then. They could see them dancing sensually and whispering sweet nothing in each other's ears that had left them baffled. Raphael, as a pure-blood vampire, had never been found by humans. He had played a strong role in the long war against humans, and he had even killed his previous wives sent by the council. Then what had changed? This question was eating all of them alive. Hazel turned her head when she felt all the eyes were on her, but instead of feeling embarrassed, she looked at all of them boldly as she snaked her hands in the neck of the man and brought her head closer to his face, as if flaunting her authority and rights over him that left everyone stunned. They turned their head away and gritted their teeth, knowing well the girl was trying to be arrogant again. Satisfied with the result, her eyes glowed like a fox, and then she smiled derisively and whispers in the ears of the man like a sweet little naive girl. Didn't I listen to every word you say without speaking in between?" They. Never in his life had he felt so speechless. When she had thought that he would be furious, and the council would see and knew that he was acting all this time, he chuckled. He laughed hard as if he had heard the world's greatest joke that she was having a hard time pressing the hands that were around his neck. Why in the name of Lord he was even laughing? Shouldn't his facade break and he should shout at her? "You are smart, Hazel, but it would be better if you use this smartness on others and listen and follow every word I say. You must do everything I ask you to, and I promise your survival. You do not have any other choice." She must applaud for his nonchalance. Why did he always threaten in a soft voice as if he was singing ballads full of love? With gritting teeth, she turned to find the girl whom she had to insult now. like she would smile and say, "Come, Hazel, insult me as much as you want." The one holding the glass of blood and standing in the corner. He whispered again suddenly that she jumped in her place. When did he even lean closer to her? "Do you want to kill me by heart attack to make it natural?" Her eyes widened, and her hands instantly flung towards her mouth to cover them when she realized she had spoken her thoughts loud enough. His amused eyes cracked, and a thin layer of ice formed on them instantly, but within a blink it was gone again. "No, you have to live a long life. I will protect you from everything and keep you safe forever." For the first time the words left his mouth sounded sincere to her. Her eyes blinked, and she snapped her head back towards him. She did not know why she felt her heart skip a beat when he said so. Was he confessing to her? "After all, you are the funniest girl I have found. You could be my lifelong entertainment," he added just when she turned to look into his eyes. All the nerves of her head popped when she finally understood what he was talking about. For him, she was like a mouse who was trying to run away, and he was enjoying her struggles. What was she even expecting? She felt furious as he had tricked her twice while dancing. "Focus, Hazel. You have to be more alert while talking to him," she reprimanded herself as she knew he loves to play. He would play with her emotions too, or else. Why was it that every woman hated her while she was unwelcomed by men? Just then the song ended, much to her relief and aggravation at the same time. She knew now she had to go and do what he wanted to give him, his so-called amusement. They both bowed their heads a bit, and he held her hands possessively in his hands, while walking back to their seats, only to leave it when they passed through the corner where the girl was standing. Vanessa was not expecting the Lord to come to her when he had not spared an eye to anyone there. She had been vying for his affections for a long time, but always thought Diana was a tough competition. Therefore she had befriended Diana and even bore the initiative of Damien towards her. She was sure that, with her seductive looks, he would notice her for sure, but who would have thought another bitch would come in between? "My lord, you are looking more handsome than usual," she replied in a coy voice, completely ignoring the presence of the girl who was leaning on Raphael as if she did not have any backbone. "Of course, I have to match up with my beautiful wife, or else everyone would only look at her." A soft smile formed on his lips when he said so, and her face turned ugly, but she covered it up with a forced smile. She would only act like she had not heard him at all. "That I was. Oh dear, excuse me. I just remembered I have something important to tell Edward. I should go before he leaves for the town of humans." Raphael tapped the shoulders of Hazel as he spoke in an urgent voice that was filled with dramatic effect that Hazel wanted to roll her eyes. He was such a drama queen. Nodding at Vanessa, whose words were cut in between, he left both girls alone to perform a play for him. As he turned, his eyes sparkled like rare gems, but his face was so cold that it would freeze the entire world. Vanessa continued to look at his disappearing back with longing eyes as she sighed, and was about to turn and left. If she would stand and talk to this joker, she was sure she would lose her calm and would end up killing her. "Are you ignoring me, Lady Vanessa, or you are so jealous that you did not even have the courage to face the girl who had stolen the man you vie for?" Vanessa froze while her feet were in the air. Her whole body burned with anger. Was the girl flaunting or accusing her? In both cases, she was not going to accept it. "What do you mean? Are you trying to pick up a fight with those petty words?" "No, I am only telling you that he is mine, so you better let go of those dirty thoughts for my husband. He would never show interest in you with that ugly face of yours. I wonder when was the last time you checked the mirror." Hazel tapped her cheeks with a face full of disdain, as if she was wondering how to describe her ugliness to her. "You, how dare you?" This was the first time someone had called Vanessa ugly. She had been one of the beauties in the noble circle with her dark hair and long face with luscious lips and big eyes. Yet the ugly duckling dared to call her the ugly one. How could she bear it? But before her hand could touch Hazel, two men came forward and covered Hazel. "Ha, to think that you can touch the Empress. You are lunatic too. What are you even thinking of impressing Raphael with, since you have neither beauty nor brain?" Hazel continued with a look full of arrogance. Her voice had got the attention of many who thought that she was knowingly picking up a fight. "You are flying so high because all the powers were given to you by Lord. What are you without them? At least my father had a seat as a councilman, and I am one of the esteemed students of the academy." Taking a deep breath to control her anger, Vanessa replied in a cold voice, showing the girl her true place. Hazel very much wanted to tell her that she would have been a free-spirited girl and enjoying the tea with Anne if she did not have Raphael in her life, but she knew he was watching her from a distance. "True, but then, since I am already an empress, why would I care if my father is a councilman or not, or have I been to an academy or not? Could I not just get myself the highest degree with the position I have? How do you think I was one of the humble ones who would not flaunt her powers or money? So you agree that you are running on his coat-tails, but you are nothing without his name. If you dare to fight me without these knights, only then would it be fair," challenged the girl with her eyes full of disdain, but Hazel only chuckled as if she had heard the biggest joke. "Oh my, what world are you living in, Vanessa? Not only are you ugly, lunatic, but also naive." She shook her head as if she could not believe it. "The world has never been a fair place, and why would I mind if I use the power of my husband? It is not like I am vying for someone else's husband like you." She raised her head and then lowered it, giving one chance to Vanessa from head to toe, who was looking so furious that Hazel was sure the girl was already killing her in her mind. One last blow would be enough for her to shut her mouth completely, right? "In fact, if I want, I can do anything in this whole continent, let alone be this empire, since my husband had the capability to protect me. So you better stay within your limits, or I will ask him to rusticate your father from the position you are so proud of." She flicked her hair with arrogance as she gave one last look to Vanessa and turned to leave. I hope this would have been enough to win. The girl was looking stunned and ashen and was not able to reply in the end. At least she had knights who would protect her even when they hated her. Or else she was sure that the vampires would pounce on her and kill her that instant for insulting them like this. She closed her eyes and shook her head to curb the fear when she felt that she hit herself with the wall. "Oh, strange. I am sure there was no wall just a minute ago." She rubbed her nose and opened her eyes to stare at the wall with death glare, but her eyes widened when she met the glowing eyes of Raphael. It was looking like a black hole that would suck her that instant. "I am glad that my wife takes me strong like a wall." She blinked when she heard his proud voice and pursued her lips. That was not even a compliment. What a narcissist." Then he held her wrist and brought her closer to Vanessa, whose eyes were filled with bloodlust. If looks could kill, Hazel would have already died many times. It was taking all her strength to control herself, and not to beat the so-called empress in front of everyone. "Why are we going back to her? I have already insulted her enough that she turned tongue-tied. I have won," she whispered in a voice even lower than a mosquito, since she knew that Raphael had the power to hear her even then. She did not want to go and continue the charade. She already had enough of it. "Oh, love," he whispered for everyone to hear as he looked at her with such a loving gaze as if he was mesmerized by her beauty. "We have to settle the account since you have had an argument with my guest." He pointed in an ambiguous voice that finally created hope in the hearts of the night creatures who were looking at Hazel with hatred and bloodlust. When she picked up on Vanessa, many of them wanted to go and tear her body into pieces, but they knew that Raphael would kill them, so they did not dare to hurt her openly. But that did not mean they would not make plans against her. They would wait for the right chance. But when they heard Raphael, they smirked. Now the girl would know she was being delusional. Settle accounts. Even Hazel's eyes widened at the words. Could it be that he had tricked her into insulting a girl so that he could have a valid reason to kill her? Is that how the other empresses died? I am doomed. Settle accounts. Even Hazel's eyes widened at the words. Could it be that he had tricked her into insulting a girl so that he could have a valid reason to kill her? Is that how the other empresses died? Dumb fool. You were hearing that he had killed the empress before, yet you did not investigate it seriously, except asking from a few maids. Now look at what you've done. She chided and cussed herself for her foolishness. Vanessa looked at the pale young man with thin lips and dark hair. She had a crush on him ever since she remembered, but he only treated her as an acquaintance. When she had thought Hazel had embarrassed her, could it be that fate had given her the golden chance to finally gain the attention of Raphael? Her nerves turned into a bundle of mess as she could not hold off her anxiety. I heard what you both said. His face was still filled with the same smile, but traces of rage could be felt in his voice. Since the argument was about me, I found it was important that I clear your doubts. Clear our doubts. Clear our doubts. The both asked in unison with bewildered looks. Did he think that they were small kindergarten students who had fought and now needed a lecture about it? Phew, though the face of Vanessa turned ugly, Hazel took a deep breath of relief. Her soul had almost left her body to handle the problem alone. Her heart was about to burn from the anxiety, too. My lord, Lady Hazel said that she could use your power any way she wanted. It was not only about me, but she even dragged my father into it and told me that she would have him fired. When I have done nothing but leave once you go to work. Vanessa could not bear being taken down when she was not at fault. As a night creature, she was much stronger than Hazel, and she was proud of it. She could not believe or accept that a human and picked up on her and showed her superiority. She would better settle it if she had gotten a chance. Even a blind could see that she was right, and Hazel was in the wrong. With dim eyes, she stared at the man, as if asking for his justice. I heard that, Lady Vanessa. Though I was away, my eyes were on both of you all this time. I heard and saw everything, and as I said, I am here to settle the accounts, he assured the girl, who was finally gleaming. Her face shone with the glow of winter. Since my wife had said those words with full trust to her husband, how could I let her down? Did she hear wrong because she was still thinking about the words Hazel had said? Vanessa blinked her eyes as she looked at the man with confusion. Her perfect eyebrows knitted, and a frown formed on her beautiful face. Even the spectators exchanged glances with horror when they realized the meaning behind his words. You did not mean that. There must be some misunderstanding. Vanessa shook her head as she had done nothing wrong. She had not even insulted the girl. She was silent all this time as Diana had told her. Of course, it is as I said. Since my wife wants me to fire your father, then I have to do that to show her my love and loyalty for her. She seems to doubt me a lot. He turned his head away from deathly pale Vanessa and looked at Hazel, whose face was no better. She was looking like she would die of a heart attack. Her shocked expressions were too adorable to see in his eyes. In reality, she was looking like she had seen a corpse, and her eyes had widened and her bloody red lips had parted. With that hideous makeup of hers, she was looking like a witch. On what basis? Vanessa's voice true-end sharp as her long nails dug deep into her hands. Her knuckles had turned white with the pressure she was using, but she did not feel any pain. She was so furious that she just wanted to turn and snap the neck of the girl. Her words were about to turn incoherent due to the anger. Nice question. The man smiled as if he had found a good entertainment he was searching for while looking at the peculiar reaction of both girls. Haven't I asked you to take care of Hazel and give her company until I return? But you turned and decided to leave the moment I left. Shouldn't that be enough reason to punish you? And it just happened that my wife chose one for me. So, of course, as a good husband, I would follow it. Could she say no? This did not mean that he would take the post of her father down for such a measly matter like this. She did not even remember when he had asked her to take care of his wife. Fear started to be embedded in everyone's eyes as they exchanged glances, while Vanessa, she waited for long and continued to stare at Raphael, hoping he would just say, "I was joking," but he did not. Once he was done with his words, he walked past him and held the hands of his wife. "So, my dear wife, are you satisfied now?" Could she say no? She was terrified. "Since I have done what you wanted, would you give me a reward?" What she wanted, what she wanted. Ag. Hazel shouted loud in her mind as she wanted to pull all her hair than his. When had she wanted to fire the man whom she did not even know? It was him. He wanted her to pick up a fight. She would go crazy, completely crazy before dying. She was shouting like crazy in her heart when she mustered an ugly smile on her face, but no one noticed the change under her heavy makeup. "Yes." "Good, then why don't you kiss me in front of everyone to show your love now?" Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video and comment down if anything wrong in the story. And if have any suggestion to a new novel or want next part of any series, comment down. Our target is to get 1K subscriber. There will be SUPRISC for all of you. Stay tuned.